David Kawisi Wazuka. So, David, take the floor. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. I apologize.
Oh, well, it's very close. David Kawesi Makosa, and thank you so much for having me. I had a conversation with Jim about 2 weeks ago, and he is an amazing evangelist for this effort. He had me hooked after our first meeting. So a little bit about me. Like I'm sure everyone else on this call, soccer was a life-changing vehicle through the youth national teams, and enabled me to go to school at Wake, and I'm currently an active duty military officer in the Navy, and the lessons I learned through soccer served me in good stead as a leader, but also being involved in soccer has occurred throughout my career in Afghanistan, Iraq, and everywhere I've gone. The ball's never been far, and it's always been a cultural bridge, both with partners and allies. During that time, I've also stayed involved in the game, where I've been a mentor to started a mentorship program at Wake Forest University, my alma mater, and also at Pitt University, where my coach, Jay Vidovich, now coaches. And then when I was in the Hill, I began being involved in the problem of accessibility, work with U.S. Soccer Foundation and their Safe Place to Play. I set that up to sort of explain why I'm on the USYS board. I began my transition from active duty, or my transition where I knew I was going on to something else about 2 years ago. So through a friend, I ran for a position on the board, and I also I began my studies at MIT, where I'm now at the Sloan School of Sports of Management. And what I knew through my children's sort of pursuit through ECNL, etc., was that my experience in the sporting world is not something that I thought could occur today. I had a loving family, but an immigrant father, and the last thing he would do would spend this amount of money or facilitate soccer in the way that I have to for my kids. And I recognized that was the problem, because I achieved, I was successful, but that was often because I believed in myself maybe more than the evidence showed. And so I'm always looking at people and those scenarios. It was with that lens that I ran for the board on USYS. And while at MIT, I began looking at what are some systemic levers to increase participation. And that's sort of where our stories collide, because I've been writing about this, the idea that people think of the United States not being a soccer-first nation. I take issue with that. If you're in the Northeast, you know Ludlow, you know neighborhoods in Philadelphia, New York, soccer is in the blood of the people, and I think that applies all throughout this country. And what we oftentimes have is people pursue soccer, but those communities aren't necessarily playing with each other or engaging. And that characteristic has been exacerbated with the emergence of the private sporting model. I am not one to say either or. I'm an and I think this community knows better than most the role that high school soccer plays and how that has not necessarily been viewed or resourced appropriately. So on the board, when I connected Tom and Jim, USYS believes that they are the key vehicle for the federation at the local level. And so my hope in Tom's conversation is USYS, the state associations, can think more concretely about what resources can USYS facilitate through the federation, additional coaching resources. But really, it's a conversation to figure out. It's not a one solution for everybody, but in certain environments, there are resources that maybe high school coaches are not being. They're not a market that's being targeted by the federation or USYS, and we should be more intentional in that outreach. Also, the connection with TACA is important. My writings essentially say the biggest challenge and the reason why pay-to-play model is so dominant is that they have a chokehold on accessibility and visibility. If you really want to be taken seriously, you oftentimes have to appear in these different recognized pathways. Unfortunately, the hurdle to entry is significant. Now, people will identify sort of the exceptions, but I argue that those exceptions are examples of the ocean of opportunity that's a talent that's available that's not necessarily seen. And this goes to TACA, where TACA is the performance metric for MLS Next. They record all their games, they do performance evaluations. My thesis is essentially there's a lot of talent outside this model, and so if High School Champions League, which is already a pre-selected group of high-performing teams at least, my thesis is that over time, that group will show that they have metrics that are worth interest and worth attention. So my hope is that can be now, and it also marries up well with Taka's intention to launch a free platform version that can be shared. Of course, there's always a upsell option, but at least the free version will begin to provide an opportunity for benchmarking. And so that's really my role. I'm always looking for opportunities to increase visibility and of talent pools outside. I think high school champions leagues being predominantly in different urban areas is a rich pool. And just as an example, in Northern Virginia, oftentimes high school is seen as a platform that's not very useful, right? It overlaps ECNL. There's a lot of different reasons, and my argument is that conversation gets dominated by the 300 to 400,000 people that are currently involved in the pay-to-play, where the high school population we know is over 800,000 and growing. It's actually going against participation trends, where it's increasing participation. And so I think we should look, obviously I'm speaking to the converted, we should look to celebrate those platforms and ensure that they're seen. So in short, that's who I am. I'm excited to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
Well, David, thank you for that presentation. Very, very informative. Thank you.
Go Deeks.
Yes. Any questions for David?
David, this is Giovanni Piccini here. You said you're at MIT? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, I'm at Sloan, and I graduate in May. So,
I was the goalkeeper coach at MIT many years ago under the legendary Walter Alessi. Since we're both local, you and I will have to connect sometime. So I'm in Quincy, so I'm not too far away from where you are in Cambridge. So let's make sure we connect.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Giovanni. Any questions, guys, or comments there? Okay.
And I know, David, you were probably trying to keep on the clock, but we ran through the first part of the meeting quick enough to buy you a little extra time. I almost wanted to tell you that, but anyway, David, thank you so much for being in this meeting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very good, David. Appreciate that. All right, next on our invited guest, we have Robert Wilson, and I had the honor of speaking with Robert last week. He's with the Football Manifesto and Club Handbook author. So, Robert, take it away.
Well, thank you for the invite. I guess I should start by thanking Terry and Jim, because without them I wouldn't be here. I've been in touch with Terry for a number of years. I think the first contact with Terry was probably even pre-COVID. It's been a while. And I think that was in the context of my book, which was just mentioned, the Football Manifesto, which is on sale at Amazon and a few other places. And I'm in the process of writing a second book as a follow-up to that book. And what I'm trying to do is to shake up the, shall we say, the apple cart of the sport in the United States. And in part of that effort is in the context of academics. So this semester I am co-teaching a course at NYU that is part of something that they call the NYU Real World course, where students who are majoring in basically an umbrella of courses focused on real estate and technology and a few other subjects get to focus in on something that will have, at least theoretically, real world impact. And so this course, this semester, is focused on a hypothetical fan-owned club in New York City. And the fan-owned idea, the business model, so to speak, is a business model that is largely borrowed from the German Bundesliga and also from the general environment of football in Latin America, which is where I live. I live in Brazil. So the basic notion that we're trying to work with in the course this semester is under the umbrella of real estate. So the real focus of the course this month, or this past semester actually, is to focus on how do we build a world-class club in New York City. And that, of course, entails the real challenge, which is real estate. And so basically what we've charged the students with this semester is to use the paradigm of 3 clubs that we feel are ideal potential models to follow that can be used in the United States, and then build on that again. This is quote unquote a hypothetical, but build a club around those themes. And so the 3 clubs that we've had the students focus on primarily are Tottenham, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich. The course, of course, meets once a week, and we basically have pushed an agenda with the students of doing deep research on both quote-unquote football leagues, the structure of football leagues, and also the structure of football clubs, primarily outside of the United States. And the argument that we're making, at least this semester, is that the best model for football in the United States, and obviously this is something we can talk about in further depth, but the best model for football in the United States, we believe, is from Germany. We think that the Bundesliga is the ideal model to import into the United States. And part of the thinking behind this came out of my book, The Football Manifesto. And in that book, I attempted to answer a question. And that question was, why in the United States, where we have 4 dominant sports leagues in the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, each one of those leagues is the global standard of excellence for that particular sport. So when you look at those 4 leagues and you realize that they generate about $50 billion a year collectively, the NFL alone is projected to generate this year somewhere between 25 and 26 billion, which is roughly the NBA and Major League Baseball combined. But we looked at the structure of these leagues and we asked ourselves a question: why hasn't soccer been able to create a league of similar import and gravity, both monetarily and in terms of cultural impact, when compared to those other 4 sports? So largely the book that I wrote is focused on that question. How is it that soccer did not, or at least has not to date, created that kind of a league, that we could have a league that competes with the English Premier League or the German Bundesliga or La Liga, et cetera, et cetera. So the course that we did this semester at NYU is largely focused on a kind of a microcosm answer to that question of how we could do this in New York City. And then in the fall, and I would be more than happy to share the initial course materials with all of you. And it's just a question of me getting your emails and sending it to you, because I'd love to get your feedback. Next semester, in the fall, beginning in September, we will teach another course, which is a follow-on course, in a sense, a broader and deeper assessment of the question of what can we do in the United States to create a world-class league. And the first question that may come to mind is, well, why do we need to have a first-class league or a world-class league? We have MLS. And so my argument, in contradistinction to MLS being the official D1 league, is that when you look at the numbers tell a radically different story than what you would ordinarily think about when you think about a D1 league. And the quick and dirty assessment is as follows. When you look at the reports from the Football Money League that is produced by Deloitte annually, and as you may know, some of you may follow this report that comes out every year. Deloitte publishes something called the Football Money League Report annually, and they've been doing it for well over 15 years. And if you go to their website, you can download for free, I'm pretty sure it's still free, the past reports of the past 15 years. Basically what they do is they chronicle in detail the financial side of the football business in Europe. and the report focuses on the top 20 clubs in Europe from a financial perspective. This past year, they came out with their report, and they had an addendum for the top 30 clubs. Now, the top 20 are all in Europe. The top 30 are all in Europe as well, except for one club, which is Flamengo, which is actually the club that I support here in Rio. But those top 30 clubs tell a story about revenue generation, cultural impact, and obviously the world of investment. And one of the things that is clear from this report, when you compare it to the United States, is that in the United States today, we do not have a legitimate first division league when compared to the quote unquote the global standard of excellence, which is primarily in Europe. There's an argument that says Brazil is also quote unquote a global standard of excellence in their own way, despite the fact that they're not in Europe, and we can talk about that. But the basic numbers are quite telling. First, MLS's average stadium size, including the NFL stadia that are subject to MLS games, the average stadium size in MLS is 24,000. If you compare that to the Division One leagues in England and Germany and Brazil, the English Premier League this year has an average stadium size of roughly 37 or 38,000. The D1 league for the Bundesliga has an average stadium size of roughly 43 or 44,000, and the average stadium size for the first division in Brazil is about 47,000. And then when you look at the numbers behind those clubs in Europe and also in Latin America, there's a different story that's being told. When we look at reports like Forbes or Sportico that puts out numbers regarding MLS, the last number that we have from Forbes with respect to MLS is that MLS is generating this year somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.2 to $2.4 billion in revenue. I haven't tried to back those numbers up, but just let's use that as a benchmark. So we have a league in the United States and Canada, 30 teams. The league has been in existence for 30 years, and it has largely existed in the U.S. and Canada as a monopoly. I mean, there really isn't any competition. I don't think USL or any of the other leagues in the United States really are competition in comparison to MLS. So having said that, we've got a league in the United States that's generating $2.2 billion a year in the two richest countries on the planet for professional sports. In the Deloitte Money League report this past year, Real Madrid was listed as the highest revenue-generating football club in history. When you translate euros to dollars, they generated about $1.4 billion in revenue last what we call their fiscal year. So that's a little bit more than half the revenue generated by MLS nationally for the entire 30-team league. In other words, one club in Spain, which I should add is fan-owned and controlled, generated over half the revenue of MLS after 30 years of a monopoly in the United States. The second statistic, which is quite telling, is that this year the average payroll at MLS is about $20 million per team. Now there are 30 teams. You just multiply that and you get roughly a payroll of $600 million this year for MLS's payroll, and that of course includes Messi, right? So $600 million is the payroll for a team, or I should say a league in the United States and Canada that is the dominant D1 league. But when you compare it to Manchester City's payroll, which is simply one club in England, Manchester City's payroll this year is about $304 million, translated into dollars from British sterling. So $304 million is a payroll for a club in England that has basically a roster of 25 to 30 players. $304 million is over half the payroll of 900 players for 30 teams in the United States. So any way you slice and dice the numbers, MLS, after 30 years, has not really created what we would call, I think, legitimately, a first division league by the global standards of excellence set by Europe. Having said that, the course in the fall is attempting to answer the question, how can we create that league in the United States? What do we have to do to create that league? So, I mean, there's a lot more to talk about, but I'm in the process of writing a second book, and the second book is largely focused on creating what I call a football revolution in the United States. And I would love to be able to talk with all of you to pick your brains, because I'm looking for ideas, and I'm also looking for speakers for the fall course. Just as a closing thought, this past semester, because the exercise in our course this semester is largely focused on how you create a world-class stadium in New York, we had two great presentations from the architecture firm Populous, which is the firm that was responsible for building Tottenham Stadium. And we also had a firm from Spain called L35, which was the architecture firm responsible for the incredible facelift that they gave Real Madrid Stadium, Santiago Bernabeu. So hopefully next semester we'll begin to talk about how do we create a world-class league in the United States. We can get some of you to talk to the students to give your perspective about, various aspects of league creation and what have you in the United States. So that's my spiel. I'm based in Brazil. I'm originally from St. Louis, which is my connection to Terry. I grew up in St. Louis, and even though I didn't play the sport of what I call football, and I should also make it clear to you that after having lived in Brazil for 30 years, I call the sport that we all love, the beautiful game, I cannot call it soccer. For me, it's football. And having played what I call American rugby in high school and college, I feel that, we have to make a transition also on the branding side of the equation and call the sport that we all love football and call the sport that the NFL plays American rugby. So I will leave it at that. I know what I'm saying is quite controversial, but I'm looking forward to maintaining the contact with all of you and hopefully building something here. Thank you so much.
That's great, Robert. Thank you for that information. And again, I got to say, I enjoyed speaking with you last week. And again, I look forward to reading your book. So thank you for all that information. We've got some time left here, so now we're going to go to Giovanni Pacini. So Giovanni, take it away.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for inviting me here. I'm the proverbial fly on the wall here, listening to all of you speak about what you're doing here with the High School Champions League. So it's great to be a part of it. I noted earlier before we kind of went on the air, so to speak. I have Jim Harte on my show this week, and he's going to be on again next week. This past week we talked about your efforts with the High School Champions League, and this coming week we'll be talking more and more about street soccer. But as far as my background, I started my career as a high school coach, and I enjoyed those days immensely. But most of my work has been at the collegiate level in coaching education, coaching development. I'm a member of the United Soccer Coaches National Staff, National Goalkeeper Staff. I've served with the organization on the chair of the technical committee, served on the education committee. Spent a number of years with USYS, ODP North, doing that type of work. Spent almost 35, 40 years at the collegiate level, mostly as a head coach, but the last several years as a goalkeeper coach. My head coaching days are over. I don't miss them. It's a story for another day. I'm currently hosting the GP Soccer podcast. My original career intent, gentlemen, was radio and TV broadcasting. Had nothing to do with soccer. And then lo and behold, this thing called podcasting reared its head, and I found it. Well, I said to myself, well, this is radio. So I set forth the GP Soccer podcast. I'm into my 14th season, and had some of the highest profile people in the game on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I just authored my first book, a big bucket list check mark for me. It is entitled "The Importance of Unstructured Free Play: Coaching at a Street Soccer with a Street Soccer Mentality." It is literally in the hands of my publisher and should be out in a couple of weeks. what I have been most fascinated by and most passionate about in my later years in the game is doing a better job with the grassroots in terms of developing creative players. And we all are familiar with the term, the game is the best teacher. And we all say that, but then when you go watch coaches go out and put together a training session, it doesn't look anything like the game is played. So it inspired me to write this book whereby I formulated a methodology whereby you can still maintain the DNA of street soccer and develop players and have them enjoy the game as they did just playing it for fun. The list goes on and on for me. Basically, if it's round and someone's been kicking it, I'm not too far away. If you listen to my show, the last block of my show is called The American Soccer Revolution, where I analyze, throw out, dump, blow up, dissect, rethink, scrap, overhaul, everything having to do with American soccer. Some of it controversial, some not so controversial, but the DNA of that block of the show has to do with pay-to-play. The youth sports industrial complex, which I just find obscene to put youth sports and industrial complex all in the same sentence. So I take that on. This show has allowed me to literally have an audience, have a format whereby I can express all these things and hopefully manifest some change going forward in the game of soccer here in the United States of America. What I have to do periodically, gentlemen, is slap myself in the face and say, in your 67 years, yes, I'm 67 years old, we have made great progress. And I have to remind myself of that. Do we have a ways to go? We have a long ways to go. Are we perfect? We're not perfect. So, there's great work to do, and that's kind of why I'm on board with this. I think this is a great opportunity for high school kids, to get involved with the Champions League. And again, I'll be willing to get involved in any way, shape, or form. This show can be a platform for all of you out there that want to speak about what you're doing in your respective communities when it comes to the Champions League. I've had another great guest, not just all the high-level guests, but folks from the real important folks who are coaching youth soccer, coaching club soccer, coaching high school soccer. So that's my spiel, so to speak. And I'd be looking forward to connecting with all of you at some point.
Very nice, Giovanni. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And again, Jim has all our contact information, all our email addresses. So, Jim, if you could provide Giovanni with that way when his book comes out, it's published, and it's ready to go, that we all can take advantage of, see what he wrote about. So, again, thank you for your presentation. Very good. Any questions for Giovanni?
I'd like to ask Giovanni about his concept of street football, because I think that the street, which in some sense, by definition, means non-parental supervision, is in some sense what's missing in a major sense in terms of the free-form style that kind of represents the definition of the beautiful game. I think that
Great question. It's an integral part of the book. I'll answer it in two ways. Yes, indeed, street soccer is the purest form which we can grow, learn, develop, and make mistakes, and learn from those environments. And yes, it is devoid of parents. It is devoid of coaches. The problem and we're all aware of this, facing street soccer and just pickup sports in general, there are a variety of reasons, not the least of which is social media and technology, issues with child safety. The list goes on and on. I have a complete chapter on this. So the kids going out to play have really been diminished, really been diminished. Therefore, those environments that were the cornerstone of us going out and playing and learning, just on our own, have really diminished. So what I did, the second part of the answer here, was how can you formulate a methodology, an approach that still maintains the DNA of street soccer, but yet put forth an environment where kids are learning. And so what I did, what I formulated with, and it's not rocket science, is the use of constraints. I'll give you a simple example, and I have 40 of these laid out in my book. Picture, if you will, a group of 8-year-olds, 4 versus 4. Everything is directional because when kids play soccer, they play directionally. One of the activities that I lay out is take the goals off the end line, pull them about 6 or 8 yards, turn them around so they're facing an opposite direction, and you have them play. I did this for a youth soccer organization here in the Boston area not too long ago. I did this very, very, very activity. And you don't tell them. You just say, okay, we're going to play, and that's the field. And they look at you and they go, Coach Piccini, the goals have turned around. And then I use the magical 3 words, figure it out. And kids will go off and they play and they figure it out. And then what I do in terms of the formality of a coaching session is after they play for a certain period of time, you bring them in and you apply the Socratic method. You apply guided learning. You said, well, what was the deal with the field? Well, the goals were turned around. Well, why is that a problem? Well, we had to go around and did you figure it out? Well, yeah, we kind of figured it out. So you give them some guided learning and you send them back out to play again. And that's a really consolidated answer to your question. So I put together, activities and training sessions that the DNA of street soccer is maintained, but yet putting forth constraints, environments, challenges for the players that they have to deal with, which will then help them, help them refine their skills. And the most important part of all this, and I'm sorry for kind of belaboring the point, but it's an important one, it's getting coaches to keep their mouths shut. Joysticking is such a major problem from youth to the professional level. I was watching all weekend professional game. You see coaches gesticulating and yelling and screaming on the sideline, and little do they realize very little of that is being absorbed, in their brains. Never mind a group of 8-year-olds. So that's been a passion of mine of these past several years. I put my money where my mouth was, and I wrote this book. It'll be out, like I said, in a couple 3 weeks, and I think I'm kind of onto something. That being maintaining like I said, the DNA of street soccer, but yet still having an approach that challenges the players to play sort out problems that are in any game. So that's a short version of several chapters in my book. I appreciate the question, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Giovanni? No? Okay. So we've got one more person on the agenda, but you know what, Jim? I'm not seeing it. Christian, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Giovanni, where are you located?
I'm in Quincy, Massachusetts, the city of presidents, if you're a New Englander.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Yep.
John, Giovanni is friends with John Barata.
Oh, yeah. Good friends.
Oh,
Very good, very good.
good. John was on here earlier, but he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
John's a good
Giovanni,
friend.
I'm coming up there for the Scotland-Morocco game.
Oh, you are? Well, let's make sure we connect.
Yes, I will.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Is Christian Vallejos on here?
Try to find out.
Hello?
No, doesn't look like it. Okay.
It don't look like it. Because again, there's a couple people that just, it doesn't say any names, just say they're on it, so I just want to make sure.
We'll get Christian in the next meeting.
Okay,
He's an important contact for us.
Right, okay. So Jim, you want to give us some closing remarks?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think that as everybody was talking, I was thinking of, that person should talk to that person. Robert, I was really happy you asked that question about street soccer, Giovanni. David, thank you for being here and for being excited about what we're doing. The Content Creator Network is going out to everybody. I think everybody should have it. And everybody's contact information is in there. Reach out to anybody in the network. And you guys, like Giovanni, you got a lot of potential guests here. Just on this show for the GP Soccer Podcast. But I feel like something's happening, Perry. Thank you for being our national ambassador. Thank you for seeing at that Champions League draw. I think we're going back now to 2023, where you said, we got to get this to St. Louis. Dude, that was a key turning point.
Yeah.
Thank you for Jimmy DeNoble and Craig Fawcett, who are here, that have been in our Champions League draws before, for Cindy Nagel, for offering to sponsor kids to go to college free, services that would cost people hundreds and even thousands of dollars. It's just exciting what's happening, and thank you for everybody. That's all I got.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much. And John Mayer, thank you for being on this call, and obviously we'll be following up with you, and I look forward to being part of the high school presentation in Kansas City. Gustavo, I want to say I apologize. I know you instant messaged me here, but wasn't sure about getting the Spanish translation. Just with my luck, I probably would have canceled the call. So just wanted to stay, but apologize. Thank you for reaching out and asking me to do that.
We can get Gustavo on a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because again, I just think with the translation with the English.
Thank you.
So apologize.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's all. My respects. Okay. So again, anybody have any comments, questions before we end this call?
I'd like to say hello to another St. Louis and Kevin Whalen. I just want to say hello to him.
Thank you, Robert.
So that's just to kind of keep the St. Louis spirit going. And I appeared in his podcast over a year ago, but he's a great guy, and he's promoting the game in the way that it needs to be promoted. That's for sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Robert.
Yep. Kevin, thank you again for recording this, being on this call, and all the information that you're able to send all the coaches and everybody that's involved. So really appreciate your part doing this, Kevin. It means a lot to us.
Well, you're welcome. And following you,
Keller, congratulations on your the girls' Champions League, and obviously with Jorge Jesus. And I did see the pictures, and I'm aware of that girl that I think it is. She is a machine. Man.
He's a great player.
What a great player she is.
Maddie Di Maria.
Maria, everybody, you got to watch that name, Maddie Di Maria.
Yep, she's a national phenomenon right now in high school, so it's fantastic. And again, Terry, real quick, myself and Winston DeBose and Don Draghi will be going to Chicago to watch the U.S. play against Germany.
Ooh, careful. Watch your step.
Looking forward to that. So just a little personal thing with Terry, going back with Don Draghi. So again, wonderful conversation here. Everybody, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. We'll keep you posted. And again, Giovanni, you know what? Jim's going to send you our email list. And again, when does your book come out? Let us know. And obviously, I'm looking forward to reading that along with Robert's. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you
Really
so
appreciate
much.
everybody's
Thank you.
time and commitment here to be on this call. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it, guys. All right.
All the best.
We'll talk soon.
Guys.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
The High School Champions League on the move.